I'm Beth Flippo, CEO of Drone Express and your host of the So Fly podcast. I'm excited to have you join us as we explore the lifestyle of tomorrow. At Drone Express, we're leading the charge into the next era of shopping, saving you time so you can truly savor life's moments. Hi, everyone, and welcome back. I am Beth Flippo, the CEO of Drone Express, and I am so excited to welcome you all to our second episode of the So Fly podcast. Today, I am here with our Chief Regulatory Officer for Drone Express, Russell Kline.
Hello.
So today, we're going to be talking about all the work and regulations and really what goes into making our operation very safe and what makes it possible to be able to fly in the National Airspace System. So it has been many years of us working with the FAA to get to the point where we can get a 135 to be in these programs, which is pretty exciting. What the Part 135 is an airline certificate that will allow us to do operations beyond visual line of sight. It is the only path to do that in the United States. And I wanted to introduce Russ here, who is putting the whole team together and making this happen for all these years. So Russ, if you wouldn't mind, would you tell all of our viewers out there a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Russell Kline. I've got about 15 years in the aviation industry, a little more than that. Kind of a unique amount of a couple of years in the legislature and Congress, writing aviation legislation. A few years at the FAA, where I was kind of learning exactly how the inner workings of it operate. And then after that, several years as a commercial airport operations manager, getting some real hands-on experience. And then Beth found me a couple of years ago, saved me from the commercial airport world, and here I am.
And it's been a crazy ride.
It's been interesting. Yes, absolutely.
So one of the things that people don't realize is that a Part 135 for unmanned follows very much the same pattern as a Part 135 for manned operations, the same operator certificate that, let's say, American Airlines would have. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the roles on the corporate side that need to be filled in order to run an airline in the U.S.?
Yeah, so believe it or not, there's actually 3 positions that are required by regulation for a Part 135 air carrier, and that is a director of operations, a director of maintenance, and a chief pilot. And those individuals have different responsibilities. The director of operations sounds just exactly like what the title is. That person is ultimately responsible for the daily operations, safe operations, compliance with the regulations, all that stuff on a daily basis. The chief pilot is kind of more of your most senior person there, who has similar requirements, but is probably a little bit farther down in the weeds, making sure working with pilots, doing check rides, really ensuring that the day-to-day stuff at a very molecular level is complied with. And then the director of maintenance is there that's exactly what it sounds like. Maintaining these aircraft for commercial use is highly regulated. The FAA does not have much of a sense of humor when it comes to any of this stuff, in particular maintenance. So he or she is there to make sure that all that is done according to the plan that we lay out as the air carrier operator.
And what's incredible about this is how all these procedures are put in place. The rules around a Part 135 are set up in a series of manuals. These are books pretty much that lay out how you're going to operate, how you train your pilots, how you maintain the aircraft. In all, how many manuals are there to be completed for a Part 135?
Well, there's three big ones: a general operations manual, a general maintenance manual, and then we have the SMS and the hazmat manual, which are slightly different than that, but those two are typically combined into one. And the manuals are really the company's way of saying to the FAA, this is how we're going to conduct our operation. And the FAA reviews those manuals, works with the applicant or the air carrier, and then once everybody's in agreement, they approve them. And then it's up to the air carrier or the operator to fulfill all those roles and requirements that they basically put on themselves and conduct their operations based on how the manuals are written.
Yes, so it's as much work as it sounds.
It's the administrative level is almost as high as the operational level. Yes.
Right. In order to fly and operate in the NAS, you need to have a certified aircraft. So we are also in the type certificate program. The FAA has been working with us to make sure that our aircraft is deemed airworthy at the same standards that they would a Boeing 747.
Yep.
And we have gone through this for many years, and many people don't realize that drones are held to the same standards as manned aviation.
Yeah, absolutely. They dive into the minutia of how the aircraft is put together, all the way up to how it functions, and require robust testing, and then review the testing results and go through the applicant with a very fine-tooth comb about exactly how this aircraft is supposed to operate, and that the design of it is safe.
Right. And it takes a long time.
Years.
We've been members. We were members of the IPP back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
We're members of Beyond. We're now members of AeroX in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And we participate in all these programs in order to share our knowledge with all the other participants, because we are all trying to conquer the same airspace and fly together in a way that makes sure all these deliveries get to you without any issue whatsoever. And what's interesting is that drone delivery might even be safer than manned aviation, because you're eliminating the pilot. These aircraft are fully autonomous. They do not need a pilot to operate them. And maybe, Russ, you could go into what the pilots are on the ground. What is their role? Because people will see them out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the pilots you'll see at the operation are responsible for a couple different things. From the time the order goes in to it's delivered to the house, the pilot sees the mission and the order come in, and then looks at the mission and the destination, and will do a cursory check to make sure that there's no issues immediately with where that delivery is going to be made. When the package comes over and is attached to the aircraft, the pilot will check that and make sure that it's done, and again, in accordance with the manuals, and that everything's safe. And then at that point, once everything's ready to take flight, the pilot steps back and hits a launch button, essentially on the ground control station, which is just a basic laptop computer. And they are there at that point to monitor the health and the performance of the aircraft. They don't hand fly it. Every time we put a human in the loop on these things, you actually introduce more risk than you do if you let an automated system take over. So if there were an issue, the pilot actually is there to make sure that the aircraft is doing what it should be doing. They're not hand flying the aircraft. So it's an important distinction between manned aircraft, where you have a pilot sitting behind the yoke and can put his or her hands on it. That's not the case here. You're monitoring a system. If something comes up and they need to intervene, they will, but they're trained to let the system run. It's going to make a decision faster and better than the pilot can in that particular moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So BVLOS, let's talk a little bit about that.
The Holy Grail.
That is definitely the holy grail of our world, and what you need to achieve to be able to scale drone delivery, which is why you can see drone delivery happening right now, but it's not out across the nation because of that BVLOS restriction. And the BVLOS, beyond visual line of sight, is only capable once you have achieved a Part 135, which we hope to be getting soon, and will hopefully be able to add beyond visual line of sight. So what's difficult about beyond visual line of sight is, you can imagine, it adds a lot of complexity to make sure your comms are working. You maintain constant communication with the aircraft at all times. And that's why you need to have a Part 135, because they want to make sure that all of your operation, all of your maintenance, all of these things are being taken care of. And then the BVLOS would go on top of that. So we believe in these rules. We've worked with them. We know that we want to have drone delivery be just as safe as manned flight, which, thank goodness for the FAA, is the safest form of travel in the world.
By a long shot, yes.
Yeah. And any type of drone delivery, drone surveillance, all these things under the guidance of the FAA are going to be just as safe. You're not going to have those issues or a truck driver driving the wrong way down your street. So that's not something you're going to have to experience with drone delivery. Right. But let's talk a little bit about our Winston-Salem operation that's coming up and why we think we'll be able to achieve beyond visual line of sight through this partnership with AeroX.
Yeah, so in Winston-Salem, there's a partnership in place down there. It goes by the name of AeroX. And what happened a few years ago is the North Carolina Department of Transportation put together a group, and they went out and purchased 2 ground-based radar systems. The reason they needed to do that is most aircraft radar now only sees above 1,000 feet. We don't fly above 400. So the radar that's currently in place doesn't go low enough. So these ground-based radar systems will provide coverage to a pretty large area. I think each radar sweep is 15 nautical miles, which is a big area. But what it allows us to do is see other aircraft that might be in the area that we wouldn't be able to see on normal radar. And because of that, the FAA is more comfortable with operators operating beyond line of sight, where they can't see the drone, but they can see the radar sweeps, and they understand that, yeah, you know what, the airspace is clear, there's no other issues out here, you can proceed. And that really is the ultimate goal, ensuring that there's no safety issues imposed on the NAS. And that's where AeroX has really become at the leaders in the forefront of this by providing that ground-based radar.
Right. They definitely do not want to allow drones to fly if it might introduce any sort of, damage to the existing airspace.
Yep. Very risk averse. And the concern is first for lives and then second for property. And, we don't want to be having any issues with other manned aircraft for sure, because that certainly would pose a big risk. But that radar really right now is the only comfortable way that I know of the FAA is say, yeah, let's go ahead and integrate these drones into the NAS.
Right. And something that many people don't realize when you talk about drone delivery in the United States is that the Part 135 is a domestic air carrier license. It is only for corporations that are in the United States. And it's one of the reasons why you don't see, something like Air Egypt flying between Washington and Detroit. There are rules around that, and it's very exciting to be one of those companies, these American companies, that's going to be able to do this. And it's a pretty exciting point to be at.
Yeah, we're starting an airline. There's no other way to describe it. And yes, you have to have operational control of the airline. To your point, you don't see Air France flying from New York to LA. Those are only American flag carriers. So it sounds too punny, but we're in rarefied air when it comes to being able to operate as an airline in the U.S.
So we are excited to be bringing drone delivery to the masses to show what it's really capable of, to show that there are things that we need every day within 15 minutes. If it can save us going out on the road, especially in bad weather or with young children who, are sick, these are things that are a need every day that drone delivery can solve. And we're really excited to be a part of it and show the world what drones can really do.
Absolutely. Yeah, the public benefit is definitely there.
Learn more about what it takes to become a pilot in this new exciting industry that's being created. You can email careers@droneexpress.com, or you can always go on the FAA site, learn what it takes to get your 107. You only have to be 16 years old, which is incredible, and be able to be a part of this new world.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for being on
with
me on my second episode of SoFly. And I'm sure we'll have you discuss more as we get this certificate. And thank you all for joining and wanting to learn more about Drone Express.
Thank you.